Good míle fáilte cara. Welcome friends. This is Siobhán here. And if you're joining me either on YouTube where it's going to have more of the visual element, you may also be listening to this on perhaps Spotify or maybe Podbean. Eventually I'm going to upload all of these also onto Podbean preferably. So welcome to whichever format it is that you happen to be following me on or listening to this piece of work that I'm really happy and getting more stronger in, I guess, in wanting to talk more and share this work that needs to be shared. And it is a lot in the spiritual realms. It is talking more to energy, the idea of energy, what is energy in terms of spirituality, and bringing in the history and a little bit of mythology as well. So there's a number of different things that's kind of happening and interweaving in these discussions and talks, but this is something I wanted. There's so many different topics. It's really hard sometimes to narrow it down, actually, to just do a talk, to stick to the point in just one particular thing. There's so many things to say, and so many things are interrelated, so many subjects and topics. But a lot of my work comes out of, it's experiential, I guess, is kind of the most important thing. It's lived. And it comes out of my own journeys, my own energy work that I do personally, myself in my life, and through working with clients, whether that's through my oracle card readings that I do, whether it's through Reiki healing or energy sessions, or through hypnosis, the past life regression through Aurora that I also do, that I facilitate. But so much revelations, so much has been revealed, I have to say, and as more and more has been revealed to me in the spiritual realms, the more I'm being prompted and being guided and being told to start finding my own voice and talking more publicly about this stuff and finding the method and the way. So I don't want to delay too much. This is going to be relatively short, and it's a follow-on, as a lot of my videos are usually follow-ons from something I've talked about previously, to keep building on the work and introducing the topic. And so as my work in the channels that I am using develop, so will the subjects themselves going to continue developing more deeply into the subject. So there can be various previous recordings that you can listen to if you're listening or finding me for the first time in this particular talk. There will be previous work that you can refer back to kind of find maybe the certain foundations or the basis of where I'm starting at with talking. So this talk, as the title says, is around what is called DNA activations, and there is a lot to say around this, but I am going to keep this relatively short, and again just to introduce the idea softly, so that, because sometimes it takes time to kind of understand these ideas or new concepts or these new energies that are coming to us, and it takes time for us because we're partly deprogramming ourselves when we're also expanding our minds, opening ourselves up to new concepts and new ideas. And so at the same time, either you can have a total cognitive dissonance and there's just no way you're going to even consider what's being said, and that can even happen for the first few times. Even if you are relatively open-minded to new ideas, we can still have a lot of resistance to newness. And other times it can just be exactly what we need to hear because we're ready for it. It might be the right time, right place, right energy, right concept, and we've already done the deprogramming around other things that has nourished the ground essentially for the expansion of new ideas. So around DNA activations, it was on my mind to continue with the topic that I've mentioned a few times, a good few times in past videos, and I've been meaning for a while to expand on it. And so what's been happening on many levels within all of us for a long time, for varied reasons, this is what I am going to delve into. So to get into the topic, DNA as we know of it through science is a biological structure. Scientists have studied it, they've tested for it, they can do all kinds of tests for it. We've got all our different chromosomes and our genetics and different structures and different numbers, amounts of chromosomes and things that we have, and discerning between male and female, so on and so forth. So there is this thing that's like quantifiable that we can look at in a microscope and that can be tested for and that we understand to some extent. But just like science tells us at the moment that like we only use 1/3 of our brains, as far as I know, they haven't elaborated or expanded on that theory to say that, no, we're evolving and we're actually using more than 1/3 now. Some people are managing to use a lot more than that. I don't think that's happened yet. I think we're still at the 1/3, considered to be at the 1/3 apparently. That's what we're told, right? So it's a level of like awareness. There's what's going on with the other 2/3. Okay, so like, is there a level of awareness in the other 2/3? What's like, is it just dead brain matter? Can it be like just completely vast empty space of nothingness? Like, what's going on in the other 2/3 of the brain as such that we're supposedly not actually using? Is it different levels of awareness? Is that part of our expanding consciousness that's not actually quantifiable? Or that they're telling us that, you know, they haven't quantified, or that they're not, what are they not telling us about the other parts of the brain? So some things apparently are not provable but in science about the structures as well, not just the brain but also our DNA. So what else is also going on in our DNA that science cannot tell us or isn't telling us? So if we've like studied ancient like teachings, philosophies, for example, like Sanskrit, which is like pretty old, it's managed to survive a long time. You have like Kriya Yoga, you've got the Ayurveda medicine, you've got acupuncture, you've got just a few systems that I'm naming that are based on what's considered very old, ancient knowledge and text and information about the body and the systems of the body, and how everything is intertwined and connected, and how the body is also referred to as being sometimes like a highly tuned temple. Our body is our temple, and like most of us don't really fully maybe understand or connect with what that really means on a certain level. And really and truly, if we were to connect fully with that, like, how would we really worship our bodies as temples? And okay, we're told, like, from an egoic standpoint, of course, like, this is going to be a negative thing if you're going to be like worshipping the body. But if we have a fully integrated ego, and we're not operating from ego, that we're operating from a self-respect, self-love, self-honor, and a full integration with the ego as part of all of that, then how do we worship our temple? With reverence and respect and love, and not from just an egoic platform of pride and worship. So seeing our bodies as being these temples, I've seen our bodies as being what is a spiritual technology. So this is what like Kriya Yoga explains an awful lot about, is the interconnections of the body and how special it actually is. That it's not meant to be regarded as just a physical vessel and then it dies and then that's it. This is a disconnect. Our body just dies and it goes back to the earth if we put it into the earth, and that's it. Not necessarily. Like if we look at the yogis in India, many yogis, we have Mahabharata Babaji, who transcended basically with his full physical body as far as we're aware. And there's the many yogis, many more in India that have managed to do that as well. And this is where a lot of that ancient knowledge is still very rooted, and where they understand what it means to represent or worship your body as being a temple, your vehicle. And all these words are all throughout various different systems, religious beliefs about the body being this wonderful vehicle and a temple. So, how many of us really fully connect into the actual wisdom of that? And I know it's difficult, it's a challenge. There's so many things put in front of us to distract us away from it, from that pure sense of worshipping our bodies as temples, recognizing them as a temple. Our bodies are described sometimes in yogic philosophies as being finely tuned, high frequency, finely calibrated pieces of spiritual technology, our entire body. So it's actually no great mystery in some ways when we connect into this knowledge that also this transcends also into the understanding of our DNA. And so through my energy work, when I experience working with people, whether again it's my own personal activations within myself, or when I work through Reiki sessions with others, I want to share with how relevant and magical that our biology actually is, especially the DNA, because the DNA is running a lot of things. It's the foundational stone. It's a collective message that is encoded into us. So it's a coding for us too. It's a coding that we receive when we're born. Even before we're born, it carries our lineage. All of your lineage is coded deeply within to the DNA. And over the years, especially since 2012, a lot of people are talking about ascension. So we've all these spiritual leaders who talk a lot about ascension and what that means, and they talk about your DNA and your coding and your activations. And we must really look inside of ourselves to not just have this as an idea in our minds, but now is the time that we actually have to really seriously unlock the coding, the DNA, and kind of bring it into alignment with, it's not just a nice spiritual idea. It's not just some type of philosophy. It's not some type of thing that's just kind of happening magically in the ethers. No, there's a whole other system that's been going on as well that is part magic, and it's part us. It's part of our creation. It's part of your ancestors still talking to you, still connecting with you, still being within you, still being part of who you are. You are of them just as they are of you. So this coding has actually started wars, as in the war that we're in now, World War III that we're going through. There's a war over our DNA, and we've had a war over our DNA for a long time. It's not just this war. This is literally at least the third official world war that we're having in order to gather and have full control over the DNA. This is what it's all about. This is what it's coming down to, what's happening now in 2022. So we are seeds, we're referred to. Some people who are in spiritual lightworker communities, we often refer to ourselves as Starseeds. And so this is a term that you will come across, whether or not you're familiar with it, if this might be a new thing for you. Starseeds. So what are starseeds? Again, the coding, the DNA. It's in your DNA, where you come from. You come from the stars. And we all have connections back to various different planets, because guess what? A scientist will even tell you that there can be part reptilian DNA found within the human DNA, because we're not just humans. We are a big mosh pit of all kinds of different culminations of energy and lineages, and we are kind of like a hybrid race, really, in a way, but we actually have no idea of just how powerful and creative we are as human people. But we come from many different races, many different creations, many different seeds, many different DNA lineages. It's all inside of you. It's all seeded within us, both into the sperm and both the ovum. So both hold all of this. This is our inheritance. This is our unique inheritance. So my message from the ancestors to all of us is about reconnecting, reclaiming our DNA. What is your ancestral inheritance? Even if you're going back a couple of generations, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 generations or more, that's how old your coding is and more. That's what's been activated inside of you. What is your bloodline? All these answers are within us. And this nefarious warmongering that's going on, or the people in charge of this who are waging this war, they're very aware of actually just how precious this DNA is that we have, that we carry inside of us. This is the key to a lot of different things. So that's, if as an energy worker, as a Reiki worker, this is a big part of the activations that goes on sometimes when people are receiving energy work and energy healing. It's about activating the coding, and not that we all need to have Reiki sessions or be going to Reiki or energy work, whatever, because the activations are happening in so many different creative ways in the different situations that play out in our lives. But it's about the stage of 2022, this year of massive transformation. Yeah, it's time for us to really connect into this now, really to bring it up in our bodies, to bring it up into our consciousness and to our full awareness. Because part of this it's 2 parts. You're fully bringing yourself into your own reality, into your own creational power, your own creational reality. And at the same time, you're going back in time, traveling back through your lineages, connecting with all of your ancestors, because they're all there just waiting for us energetically. And all of us, all have various different ancestors who are all reaching out to us and trying to guide us, and who are connected uniquely to each one of us, to our DNA. And through this DNA is how they stay connected to us. It's how they're not getting lost in time. Nothing's lost in time. So, well done. Thank you very much for listening, for coming this far. I am keeping this short.